All right, yeah. Hello, everybody. Whoa, it's Uncle Matt here. Let's sit a little better. That was a little fun. It's Uncle Matt here. I'm here to read you another bedtime story, and today's bedtime story is The Berenstain Bears Draw It. Drawing Lessons from Stan and Jan by Stan and Jan Berenstain. This book was copyright in 1996. Brother and sister bear, and most of their friends like to draw and paint. They also like to make things using art, things like door hangers, paper bag masks, and funny greeting cards. But even though they liked to draw and paint and make things using art, it wasn't something they thought much about. At least, not until Mr. Smock came to Bear Country School as artist in residence. Artiste in residence. Now, this term's special event, Mr. Smock, will be coming to our school as artiste in residence. Introducing Mr. Smock, artist in residence. It's true folks don't think much about drawing until somebody like me comes along, but perhaps they should, because almost everything that's made, built, or manufactured begins as a drawing. Every table, every chair, every car, every truck, every nut, every bolt begins as a drawing. I understand, artist, said Sister as she walked home from school with brother and cousin Fred, but what's this resident stuff? That just means he's going to live here and be a special teacher, said Fred. And instead of having art class every so often, we'll have it twice a week, added brother. Sounds like fun, said Sister. We'll make a few collages, do some finger painting, and throw a few pots. But best of all, it's a class with no homework. Drawing may be the heart of art, but there is more to art than drawing. There are many kinds of art. There is art that looks like something. There's art that sort of looks like something. And there is art that looks like nothing except itself. Just as there are many kinds of art, there are many kinds of ideas and opinions about art. Here's some discussion of some bears here. Call that art? Why didn't you just take a photograph? Call that art? It's got better looking garbage than that. I've got better looking garbage than that. But there's one thing that's not a matter of opinion. My classes shall have homework. Sister couldn't have been more wrong. For while Mr. Smock looked like what the cubs expected, he wore a beret and a pointy beard and a paint-smeared smock, it became quite clear as he answered their questions that his art class was not going to be what they expected. Well, said Sister, if there's not going to be any collage making, finger painting, or pot throwing, how are we going to express ourselves? You're not going to express yourselves, answered Mr. Smock. I'm going to express myself by teaching you how to draw. Just as there are different kinds of art, there are different kinds of drawing. The first one here, cartoon-style drawing, uses line to create humor. Animated cartoons are made of lots of drawings, shown in sequence. This book has a built-in animated cartoon to see. Flip the pages at the upper right-hand corner. Oh. You can easily make your own animated cartoon by drawing in the corners of several pages of notepad. Hey, said Too Tall, the school troublemaker, I can't even draw a straight line. Sure you can, said Mr. Smock. tossing him a ruler. Besides, straight lines are not what drawing is about. Drawing is about seeing and understanding what you're looking at and putting it down on paper. Most of the rest of the class was taken up by a slideshow of different kinds of drawings. There were drawings by great artists of the distant past. There were drawings by artists of the really distant past. Wall drawings by prehistoric cave bears. Fashion drawing can be seen in newspapers and magazines. While the average female bear is 4 heads high, the fashion bear is always drawn much taller. Fashion artists and cartoonists draw from their imaginations. Fanciful drawing comes from deep inside the imagination. All those types of drawing grow out of basic drawing, which is what I shall teach the cubs of Bear Country School. The class noted that one of the drawings in the slideshow was signed Smock. It was of Mr. Smock himself. That's one of you, said Brother. How did you do it? By looking in a mirror, said Mr. Smock. It's called a self-portrait. It's really good, said Brother. What did you do it with? An ordinary pencil, said Mr. Smock. And speaking of pencil, that's what I want you to use for your homework. Homework, the word hung in the air like a nasty odor. The urge to draw is powerful. From prehistoric times when drawings were done with colored earths, the earliest paints and burnt sticks, charcoal, to the most advanced computer drawing systems that use a mouse. A mouse? Not our kind of mouse, silly, a computer mouse. Artists have always found ways to draw. But throughout history, some of the finest drawings have been done with the simplest of materials, pencil and paper. Sister groaned when she heard the word homework. The whole class groaned when it heard that the assignment was to bring in drawings of different kinds of bark. Bark, said Sister. You mean like what's on trees, said Fred. Exactly, said Mr. Smock. See you next time. To an artist, there's interest and beauty everywhere, not just in a flower, a butterfly, or a sunset, but in lowly bark or an ordinary bug. Insect to you, Buster. There's more on this page. Talk about boring, said Sister as she, Brother, and Fred headed home from school. I don't think there are 10 different kinds of tree bark, said Brother. But even as they complained, they couldn't help noticing something out of the corners of their eye. Bark. And how many different kinds there were. There was smooth bark, rough bark, peeling bark, speckled bark, shaggy bark, nubbly bark, as many different kinds of bark as there were kinds of trees. Thought Brother as he, Sister, and Fred went to work on their homework. Maybe that's what Mr. Smock meant when he said drawing. It's bedtime. Drawing is about seeing. It's simply amazing what you can see once you start to look. When the cubs handed in their bark drawings at the next art class, they couldn't help notice that the room was all changed. You will see, said Mr. Smock, that I have arranged your desk in circles, and on each desk is a pad and pencil. At the center of each circle is a still life, which you will draw. First bark and now kindergarten blocks, said Kent Brother. And think about this as you work, continued Mr. Smock. Good drawing is 90% looking and 10% drawing. Whatever that means. The meaning became clear as the cubs began to draw. The drawings of cubs who didn't follow Mr. Smock's advice came out poorly. Those who followed his advice did well, and wonder of wonders, Too Tall did the best drawing of all. How to draw still life. Number 1, simply select household objects. This, not this. Part 2. First, sketch the objects lightly. Be sure to use the whole paper. This, not this. Part 3. Check and recheck the shapes and sizes of the objects you are drawing. Remember, a big fat eraser is the beginning artist's best friend. This, not this. Once you got it right, strengthen your drawing and sign it in small, neat letters. This, not this. By the time the bell rang, the class had a pretty good collection of kindergarten block drawings. But why were they drawing kindergarten blocks? Do any of you know what the word landscape means? Asked Mr. Smock. Sure, said Sister. It's a picture of trees and buildings and stuff. That's your next homework assignment, said Mr. Smock. Draw a landscape. At least that's better than kindergarten blocks, said Brother. But when he and the others started doing their homework, they saw block shapes in their landscapes. Sister saw block shapes in the family treehouse. Brother saw block shapes in Farmer Ben's barn and silo. Cousin Fred saw block shapes in a group of evergreens. And here's a tip here. It often happens in drawing objects to see them as being made up of cubes, pyramids, cylinders, spheres, arches, and cones. The Cubs spent the next art class coloring their landscapes. They groaned when they heard their next assignment. It was to do a self-portrait. It sounded too hard, but Mr. Smock just smiled and wrote something on the board. For an artist, there is beauty in everything, even, he added, in your own funny faces. Most of the portraits were pretty good, but once again Too Tall outdid the rest. His self-portrait was a profile. He did it by using 2 mirrors. Drawing a portrait is a challenge. To help meet that challenge, I've invited Stan and Jan Berenstain to show you how they draw portraits of their bears. I'm Stan, I'm Jan. To start, we draw a circle and imagine where the 2 center lines would be. Number 2, we draw 2 circles on the sides at one center line and an oval below it. 3, now we add small circles for the eyes and nose and outline the muzzle ears, cheek ruffs, and chin. Number 4, the finishing touches are fur strokes, eyebrows, and mouth. And presto, we have an all-purpose Berenstain bear. Whew. Presto. But Mr. Smock's time as Bear Country School's artist-in-residence was coming to an end. Soon he would be moving on to another school, the Cubs, and he decided to put on a big art show. It was a great success. One of the most interesting works in the show was a checkerboard quilt. Mr. Smock had made it by photocopying some of the Cubs' bark drawings onto squares of cloth. It was very beautiful. That's fine so far, but I suspect that young artists out there would like to know how to draw all the members of the bear family. That's easy. To draw Mama, just add one of her hats to our all-purpose bear. To draw Papa, add his funny hat. Sister is easy, just draw her bow. Brother is even easier. He is our all-purpose bear. Huh. Interesting. Mr. Smock gave the Cubs of Bear Country School a parting gift when he left. It was a self-portrait he had shown them at their first class. It still hangs in a place of honor at the school. It's an inspiration to all Cubs who like to draw and paint. Mr. Smock, we want to congratulate you on the fine job you've done teaching the Cubs of Bear Country how to draw. Nice of you to say so, but I couldn't have done it without you two. And that's all the time we have for Uncle Matt's bedtime story. I hope you enjoyed that story. Oh, I have something to show you. It's almost done. This is my drawing. Okay, so it's Uncle Matt, and it's Uncle Matt, and it's Uncle Matt's bedtime story. We're almost done here. Showed you my drawing, and I hope you have a good night. All right, thanks for joining me. Bye for now.